Good afternoon, everyone. They've given me a gavel, which I hope to not use. That would be my preference. If I can ask everyone to gently conclude their conversation, then we're going to bring our attention to the center of the room. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Wow, that was very effective and fast. Thank you. So my name is Kristen Wong-Tam, and I've been the council-appointed new chair of the Disabilities Issues Committee. I recognize I have some big shoes to fill, knowing that Councillor Vaughan and Councillor Leon were big champions. I just had a conversation with Councillor Leon before coming into the committee room, and he was telling me about the good work that was being done prior to council sort of concluding and the new council reconvening. So I would like to welcome you back to your City Hall and to advise you that today's proceedings will be actually recorded. So there are actually technicians, our technician is going to be making sure that everyone who is participating in today's discussions are going to be heard, and the only way you're going to be heard is if you turn on the microphone directly in front of you. So please make sure that when you do speak, and we acknowledge you on the floor, is that you have the microphone on and you're speaking very clearly into the speaker here. This meeting is also being broadcasted internally at City Hall, so for those who've just happened to flip on the channel, that's channel 98 and 99. So we're really trying to ensure that our meetings are open and transparent and that people can participate even if it's from an observation perspective in the comfort of their office. And I recognize that there's a lot of city staff who are always very interested in what's happening in this committee. So first thing I'd like to do is to maybe just bring everyone's attention to the agenda that's before us and ask if there are any, just the business standard, are there any declarations of interest? So seeing none, thank you very much. If I can just very quickly deviate from the agenda, if I may, simply because this is our very first meeting with myself as your new chair, what I'd like to do is just have people introduce themselves, largely for my purpose, if that's okay. And if you are representing an organization and you're here today on behalf of the organization, maybe you can sort of state the organization you're here representing. If you're here representing yourself or, as a member of the committee, would like to hear from that as well. So if I can just ask to start maybe with Helen. Is that okay? So Helen, is your microphone on? Okay. Thank you, Helen.
Okay, it's on. I am a retired journalist, wrote a column on disability issues for the Toronto Star for more years than I care to admit, and I'm obviously really interested in inclusion, diversity, making this a really inclusive city.
Great, thank you very much.
Hello, I'm Sandra Carpenter, the Executive Director of the Centre for Independent Living in Toronto. Also, as such, we're interested in accessibility and inclusive design issues.
Thank you, Sandra.
Hi, my name is Ryan Hodgson, and I'm a representative of Community Living Toronto.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, I'm Archie Allison, Director of Outreach and Education from Variety Village.
Terry Lynn Langdon. I wear many hats. I'm not representing an organization.
Great.
I'm Rahima Mullah. I'm representing myself. Also, I'm the Vice President of the Co-op Housing Federation of Toronto. And 2 years ago, I was on a historic bus trip from City Hall to Ottawa to attend a rally for affordable, accessible housing.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Osario, and I'm the Regional Director for Toronto Programs and Services at the Canadian Hearing Society. And we serve people who are deaf, deafened, hard of hearing, and oral deaf.
Thank you.
I'm Monica Winkler. I'm representing the Canadian Council on Rehabilitation and Work, and we are a national organization that has everything to do with employment and persons with disabilities.
Thank you, Monica.
Hello, I'm Tracy O'Dell. I'm here as an individual, but I do have connections with a number of different organizations and have been a lifelong proponent of activities that help people with disabilities participate fully in the community.
I'm Melissa Graham. I'm here today as an individual, but I also work at the Centre for Independent Living Toronto, and I do other disability issues related activities in the city, including the Toronto Disability Pride March.
Thank you.
I'm on. Hi, I'm Yin Brown. I do work for CNIB, Manager of Advocacy, but also I'm the Toronto Chapter President for Alliance for Equality of Blind Canadians, so representing the interests of blind, partially sighted, and deafblind people.
Wonderful. Thank you, Yin. And I think everyone knows Bernita Lee, of course. No introduction required, and everyone knows Janice Hicks, who is our city clerk. I recognize there's also support staff here from different divisions, and I just want to bring your attention to the fact that we have a representative from the TTC. Is that correct? Yeah.
Hi, Matt Haig, Strategy and Service Planning Department at TTC.
And maybe for all those who are city staff, just for my benefit, if you can just identify yourself and your division. Anybody else?
Satinder Clare in the City Manager's Office.
And Meg Shields, City Manager's Office.
Uzma Shakir, Equity, Diversity and Human Rights, City Manager's Office.
And Matthew Cowley, I work on public appointments in the City Clerk's Office.
Okay, thank you.
And I'm Marie Belanger, the Librarian for Accessible Services at Toronto Public Library.
Lorene Bodium, Parks, Forestry and Recreation.
And Corey Lynch, Legal Services.
And Carol Kostanen, I'm an administrator with the City Clerk's Office.
Thank you very much. Okay. I think we also have someone from the Mayor's Office.
I'm Ken Morais from the Mayor's Office. Yeah. Matt Buckman from the Mayor's Office.
Okay. Okay, so thank you very much. Now, I wanted to, are there anybody else who needs to be introduced? No. Okay, so I wanted to do that specifically to just do a quick sweep around the room. There is going to be ongoing invitations from Bernita and myself, and I suspect the co-chairs of the committee, to continue to bring city division staff to this committee. We want everyone to know the good work that the committee is doing, and it is my intention, and hopefully with your support, is that we elevate the profile of this committee. And it's very important that everyone recognizes that this is not a committee that works in a vacuum. I think that the issues that this committee are tackling with are very big, they're very challenging, and we need the support of the entire corporation and the public service. I also would like to just extend to you the regrets of Councillor Layton and Councillor Carroll, who are also City Councillor appointees on this committee. They're not able to join us today, but I know that in subsequent meetings going forward, they're very interested in what we will be doing, and they'll be very passionate advocates for the work here. So now we go to the official business. Our first, and we're just going to review the agenda. Maybe what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hold everything in my name, and we're going to. I suspect there'll be discussions at every point. Is that agreeable? Okay, so I just want to know, like, my style of chairing is really to look back to make sure that we're on the right track. And this is a bit more informal than some of the more rigid standing committees of council. And much of it will be just learning from each other and sharing of information. Okay. So our first item on the agenda is the review of the Disabilities Issues Committee terms of reference and the name of the committee. And the agenda was circulated, obviously, a week in advance. So I assume that everyone has had an opportunity to read it. Are there any particular questions of staff, or are there any speakers to this item? Would it be helpful if I asked staff to clarify what are the primary differences that are being proposed in the amendments to the terms of reference for the committee? Is that helpful? Okay. And is staff prepared to speak to that? Okay. So please, staff.
Thank you, Chair, and good afternoon, members of the committee. So we have updated the terms of reference. The updates are fairly minor. What I will do is I'll walk you through the key changes, and just so we're all on the same terminology, I will refer to the current terms of reference, the ones that currently guide the committee as the current terms of reference, and what's been proposed, the new terms of reference as the proposed terms of reference. So I'll walk through the sections fairly quickly, and if we need to dive a little deeper into each section, I'm happy to do that. So Section A of the current terms of reference, which is titled Mandate, has been amended to propose, which is essentially to just align the terms of reference of this committee with all the council advisory committees. In addition to that, we have included an overarching statement to clearly demonstrate the importance and the requirement to establish this committee under the legislation. The mandate of the committee remains largely the same, but we have subdivided into bullets to make it a bit more clear and easier to read. The number 3 in the proposed terms of reference is a statement that has been uplifted from Section E of the current terms of reference, which makes a reference to that this is an advisory committee to council, and as such, it will operate as a council advisory committee. Section B of the proposed terms of the current terms of reference talks about the standing committee alignment. In the proposed terms of reference, Section B is now membership and term. Section B in the proposed terms of reference is essentially Section C of the current terms of reference. We have not made any changes to member composition. A few changes have been made under this section to provide greater clarity and ensure compliance with city relevant policies. The changes include that the terms of membership is now has been changed from 2010 to 2014 to state that citizen members are appointed for a 4-year term along with a term of council or until their successor has been appointed. So we have removed the years from the appointment. As well as a new statement has been added, which states that the Equity and Diversity Human Rights Division will be responsible for canvassing and recruiting members through the nomination of external interest groups, invitation of individual experts, and elections by membership-based organizations in accordance with the public appointments policy. The current terms of reference, Section E13, mentions that membership is voluntary. That statement has been uplifted to Section B and has been updated to include that expenses may be reimbursed in accordance with the remuneration policy. Section C of the current, the proposed terms of reference includes the requirements listed under Section E of the current terms of reference, which are rules and procedures. A few changes have been made under this section to provide, again, clarity and compliance with policies that govern council advisory bodies. These changes include that in addition to providing its advice to the executive committee, to City Council through the executive committee, annually the committee will report to the executive committee on its progress, including key achievements, challenges, and activities. This statement is consistent with changes made in the rest of the council advisory bodies, and it is really an opportunity for the committee to showcase its work to the standing committee and the public. So the annual work that the committee will undertake. A statement regarding quorum has been removed from the proposed terms of reference, as council advisory bodies are required to operate in accordance with the Toronto Municipal Code, Chapter 27, Council Procedures, or Council Simplified Procedures for Advisory Bodies. The Council Simplified Procedures include requirements and directions around quorum, so we felt it was a bit repetitive to include it in the terms of reference since the Council Advisory Body will be governed by Council Simplified Procedures. A few other things have been removed from Section E of the current terms of reference, as they are referenced elsewhere in the proposed terms of reference, or are not necessary in the terms of reference. For example, the current terms of reference, Section E5, lists a range of issues the committee will provide advice on. These have been removed because many of them are either referenced in the terms of reference or are beyond the scope of the committee. The committee has a broad mandate set out by council, and items listed in that section were too prescriptive, to which may be perceived to be limiting the committee's ability to achieve its mandate. Section E, number 6 of the current terms of reference, which mentions that the committee will advise council on actions or orders of other government, has been removed. The committee's mandate extends to the City of Toronto and its jurisdiction. Section E12 of the current terms of reference has been removed. This section notes that the clerk's office will provide advice to any subcommittees or working groups. The responsibilities of the clerk's office are included in the proposed terms of reference to provide meeting management support to the committee. Section D and E of the current terms of reference have been included in Section B or C of the proposed terms of reference.
Thank you very much. I recognize that it's kind of dry and clinical stuff, but at the same time, out of all that was said, some of it is just cleaning up of language so that you remove some redundancy. After the staff's presentation to help us clarify what the proposed changes are, I will ask if there's any speakers or any questions to staff. Start with questions to staff. It's all, okay, Monica, please.
I'm wondering when the 4-year term is actually set for us. Because we started so late in the last term because they kind of forgot. And so we're just wondering, are we overlapping or are we starting fresh now, or what is that to be decided later?
Yeah, I believe Bernita can answer that. I think I have an answer, but I want to make sure Bernita can answer this one.
It's a tough call. As you know, you're all convening today as the current membership of the Disability Issues Committee. Going forward, in reviewing the terms of reference, and if you're going to be making any suggestions regarding changes, Councillor Wong Tam will take that to Council. As part of that package, though, will be a discussion around recruitment and selection of members. In this room, as you are members currently, you will also be invited to submit your application if you wish to sit again. Okay? So going forward, we're actually in the first year of this next term of council. So you're here at this present moment because we have to continue the work of the committee. I don't know if that answers your question fully, but yeah? Okay.
And so thank you very much, Bernita, for that response. And with respect to what is contained in the proposal for some of the changes, I heard, and I'm just going to toss this out there for discussion, I was specifically advised that perhaps we may need to meet more often, or perhaps we need to ensure that the working groups are meeting and reporting back. That is not contained in the terms of reference per se, but I just put that out there for discussion is, are you meeting enough? The meetings are taking place quarterly. Do we need to make an amendment to that? And following up to that point, it has also been brought to my attention that perhaps the name of the committee is perhaps something that we should also reconsider. We recognize that this committee is here largely because of AODA and the requirement from the province that jurisdictions have some type of advisory body that informs City Council and our divisions of how we go about discussing the issues of disability, but it doesn't stipulate what we need to call the committee. So that's two things. One is, are we meeting frequently enough? Two is specifically, are we satisfied with the name of the committee? Does that name of the committee need to change? And we don't have to come to and just so you know, the terms of reference was sitting before the executive committee, which is going to is going to council next week, and we specifically had referred the terms of reference here to make sure that the members of this committee had an opportunity to speak to it, to review it, before council moves to adopt it. And council will most likely adopt whatever the committee brings forward. I don't think there's going to be a big debate on it. Oh, Tracy.
I don't think the committee is meeting often enough, because there were a few times where there just seemed the timing of items, our meetings were just out of sync with when it would have been helpful for other divisions, in City Hall to have heard our input or our advice. So I think that it probably is not meeting enough. Okay. We also had a format of some working groups last year, based on, or the last couple of years, based on a number of different topics. And in our case, I was chairing the one for the transportation working group. And we made a habit of meeting as a subcommittee in between the quarterly meetings. And I think that that was very successful in our ability to be able to respond. There was a multitude of items that fit within the mandate of that committee, and we could never have addressed them if we were just coming to quarterly meetings.
Tracy, thank you for that. Are there any other comments or opinions you want to share? Helen, please.
I agree that it would be, I think, helpful to meet more often. I think that the subcommittees on their own can do a lot of work, but that we need to bring everything together. I think we have some amazing people on this committee with really good ideas, and we're all very committed and prepared to do the work. So I'm not sure how everybody feels if we increased, whether we're quarterly now, do we do every couple of months? I'm not sure how people feel about that.
Yen, please.
Yes, I agree. I would suggest maybe every 2 months. Of course, I remember in the past 2 years, sometimes meetings were canceled. So I'm saying that even if we set it for every 2 months, sometimes there's a delay or postponement. So I would maybe suggest that. As for the name, I know that other municipalities call their committees Accessibility Advisory Committee, which I don't mind, to be in sync with other municipalities, as long as we understand that when we speak about accessibility, it's for mainly accessibility for the disability community.
Thank you, Yin. And I see Monica's hand up.
I too agree that we need to meet more often. We always seem to be behind the times and reacting rather than bringing things forward. As to the name of the committee, the term issues has always disturbed me, because it sounds like it's taking care of a poor child or something. They're having issues today. So I don't know if we need to go to accessibility advisory, but for sure something like disability advisory, or perhaps disability and accessibility advisory. I'm not sure, but I'd like the issues to go away.
Okay, thank you. And Terry Lynn?
I agree with meeting every 2 months. I would be okay with that, and I think that would be more efficient for all of our committees. I also think that my suggestion for the name for the committee would be the Accessibility and Inclusion Advisory Committee, or Accessibility and Access Advisory Committee, just because I think the term accessibility is sometimes gets conflated with just physical disability, and I want it to be broader than that, to include invisible disabilities as well, or lesser known disabilities.
Thank you. That's very helpful, the comments. Melissa.
Not to make a debate about this, but I think keeping the word disability in there is really important and key. And I remember this was quite a while ago, back when this committee first started, people actually commended the City of Toronto for having the word disability in there, and that had a certain amount of power in that statement. I think for some city councillors, the concept of disability within relation to city day-to-day things and city, the things that go on in the City of Toronto is a newer concept, and I think keeping the word disability in there is a reminder that disability is part of this community.
Any other comments? Terry Lynn, second round, I guess.
Yeah, I guess I agree with Melissa's comments as well. I don't think it's particularly useful to not have disability in the title.
So I'm hearing emerging trends that the word disability is important, accessibility is important. We haven't quite landed on what to call our committee, but I do think that I'm hearing overall a general consensus, unless I'm mistaken, is that we should be meeting every 2 months as opposed to quarterly, so that we can agree on. So perhaps if there are no more, and I want to welcome Councillor Layton to the meeting.
Thank you very much, Councillor, and hello everyone. My sincerest apologies for missing the last meeting, as I understand it.
This is the first meeting.
This is the first meeting, so it didn't end up happening that I missed the first one. Fantastic. But my apologies for being late. I do really look forward to meeting all of you individually and getting a chance to get to know all of you. I do plan on being a very active member of the committee. I like the idea of meeting more often. I think that that's a good first step. I know that when in the other advisory committees I've been a part of, having that regular discussion, even if you're talking about the same things, is good to keep it top of mind, but as well to make sure that the ideas keep flowing. To that, and I don't know if it's been discussed, and you'll have to excuse me because of my lateness. I understand the issue, the issues as a word. People might not be comfortable with, but perhaps maybe going back to the roots of what the purpose of the committee is, if we go towards the advisory language, which is what we use at the Aboriginal Advisory Committee, where it was just that. It was a committee giving advice to executive committee in that case about what they should do, and so rather than it's Aboriginal issues, it's not. It was advice, and so I like the idea of including the word disability and accessibility, but maybe it's an advisory. Just lean on that language of what the purpose of the committee is, rather than just come up with a new word like issues, or that means the same thing as issues. My 2 cents.
Thank you, Councillor. Monica, again?
I'd like to propose Disability and Access Advisory Committee.
Okay. So I'm going to read out a few proposals that I've heard that have come from the floor, and you can take the notes. They're very easy. They all end with advisory committee, so that's AC. So you can put that as your final 2 acronym letters. So I'm hearing, just to make sure we have this, is the Disabilities and Accessibility Advisory Committee. I also heard the Disability and Access Advisory Committee. I also heard the Disability and Inclusiveness Advisory Committee. Did I miss one? Okay, and there's one more coming from Bernita, and this is the Advisory Committee on Disabilities, Access, and Inclusion. It's a catch-all. It gets everything. Should I repeat that? I will repeat that one more time. So it's the Advisory Committee on Disability, Access, and Inclusion. Terry Lynn?
I think we're saying clearly the same thing, but I'm wondering if Disability Access and Inclusion Advisory Committee works. Okay. It's just flipped around.
Yeah, okay. But it's still important because we lead off with the word disabilities. So did everyone catch that?
Writing down the words because we don't want the acronym to spell something idiotic.
Yeah. Can someone do an acronym check to make sure we're not going to offend anyone? All right, so Stephanie.
I was wondering, rather than maybe deciding today, if we could have in the minutes the different names that are proposed, so people could have a chance to think about it, and then we vote on it on the next committee meeting? Just a thought.
I'm just wondering if that's a very good point. I don't want to rush decision making. I also recognize that there's a practical, technical timeline. The terms of reference as we amend it will be going to City Council. The City Council agenda is already posted. There's a little placeholder on that agenda that says that we are coming back to them with revisions to the terms of reference. So maybe staff can advise me on whether or not we can hold off on the naming of the committee and the renaming of the committee based on what we have posted on the public agenda, which I'm fine with. It just means that we'll be adopting a terms of reference next week by council, or do we get to defer that as well? Knowing that this committee will not be meeting for another 2 months afterwards. Okay, we have smart people checking for me right now. Or we can hold down this item and come back to it. And maybe what I can do is ask the clerks to prepare all the different options that are before us, and then and we can sort out obviously the acronym, and then maybe people can sit with it until we come back to it at the end of the meeting. Is that reasonable as well? That's okay? Sir, if you can just hold off, because we're actually in committee right now. And I recognize that City Legal's having a conversation with the City Manager's office, so they'll be providing us with some sage advice soon. And maybe what I can do is I can just continue to hold down this meeting, and we'll move off to the next topic. Is that okay? Just in the interest of time. Okay. So this one is still open. We're coming back to it. So let's move on to item number 2 on the agenda. And item number 2 on the agenda is the review of the Disabilities Issues Committee membership. Everyone recognizes that you're now serving at the will of council until the end of your term, but there is a whole new recruitment process that will be underway, and the recruitment notification is going out shortly. Everyone here is encouraged to reapply, of course, if you like to continue serving, but we also want to make sure that we have the widest range of representation possible coming to give us some good advice and to work with us. So I hope that everyone's had an opportunity to review the existing membership composition, and if there's any comments about that right now. Oh, sorry, did you want to speak? Sorry. Yeah, no, I just want to make sure that if you do speak, perhaps I can acknowledge you. And so I think, if there are members of public who would like to speak, there is a process on acknowledging you and to bring you forward to speak. The normal place where we have people speak is before the committee room here. Just let the clerk know that you are interested in speaking to a particular item so that I may be able to acknowledge you. Okay, wonderful. So if you can just speak to someone in the clerk's desk, and then they will provide me with a list of speakers, because otherwise I will not know that you are here with intentions to speak. Okay. Yeah, if you sit there, Mr. Dukes, we're going to capture your name afterwards. Okay. So, and just so everyone is aware, the item before us is item number 2, and this is around. Okay.
Just for one moment.
We just deferred we basically just held down the item, but were you interested in speaking on item number 2 as well?
I'd love to speak on all of them, actually.
Okay, so perhaps what we can do, since item number 1 and item number 2 are currently open, I will allocate 5 minutes for you to speak to both items, if that's helpful.
Right, I believe this gentleman's in line
and then,
as well.
And then the gentleman next to you will do the same.
Excellent. So as per item number 1, in terms of the committee meeting, hi, my name's Mark Dukes, and I have a disability as well. So, and I'm a citizen in Toronto, so I thought I'd show up and say hi. So, as per item number 1 and the meetings that you have, I'm going to express something to you right now that I find very important. Personally, I do not believe that 6 meetings is enough. Not whatsoever. The City of Toronto actually, in page 14 of their budget, just highlighted the fact that they're ready to roll over in terms of meeting the AODA legislation. They're already tapping out and saying, oh yeah, we're not going to be able to meet the AODA 2025 deadline. So I'll tell you right now that the graffiti panel for the City of Toronto meets 7 times a year. This committee is proposing to meet 6 times a year. So to me personally, considering the fact that the City of Toronto is already stating that they want to kind of fall behind and tap out and say, yeah, we're just not going to meet that legal deadline, I think you should be in here every month. And I think you should be plugging away every month, trying to raise this issue and raise the saliency of accessibility in this city. And I'm encouraged by the fact that the chair, Councillor Wong Tam, has allowed me and this gentleman as members of public to speak, which leads me to item number 2, and that's the membership of your committee. I might actually have a hand in why you're talking about that today, because I questioned it at the last executive committee. I questioned the membership. I'm sorry about that, but I personally don't feel represented. If you have issue with me not feeling represented, I'll be right over there, and we can civilly and peacefully talk about why I don't feel represented. But to tell you the truth, I don't. As a member of the mental disorders community, I don't feel repped. And I'll also say to you that 60% of people, I listened to the membership here. 60% of people in Ontario with disabilities are unemployed. When I listened to everybody that went around this table, I heard about a lot of employed people. And I just wonder if that's representative as well. Again, I'm not trying to diss you, and I'm not trying to, say that you're bad people or that, you're not repping to the best of your ability. But I really don't find that having a whole bunch of people that are employed, I don't think that's representative, considering 60% of people with disabilities are unemployed. And actually, for people with mental health issues, it's 70 to 90%, dependent upon their diagnosis. So I'm just going to throw that out there. I think you need to have a genuine conversation about the membership of your committee, and you need to take a look at, me personally, I don't want somebody up here representing me. According to the legislation, it's supposed to be people with disabilities, a majority of people with disabilities on this panel. And I'll say it, and at risk of maybe offending somebody, but I'd rather have somebody with disabilities here than somebody that represents them. So I'll admit it, at the last executive, I did raise the question of the composition of this committee. And it's meant not to offend you, it's meant to broaden the representation, and it's meant to represent me and other people that I'm telling you, I don't feel represented. So thank you, Councillor Wong Tam, for allowing me to speak and opening up that process. And actually, I would suggest, like other committees, like the executive, that you allow for people to come and submit what they feel, because I'm sure you all know the frustration that can stem from dealing with accessibility, accessibility stuff here in the city. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. If there are no questions to the deputant, then I would ask the next gentleman to speak. If you can just, oh, sorry, was there a question? Melissa? Actually, Mr. Dukes, you're going to have to come back to the microphone.
Hi. I just wanted to first of all say thank you.
Cheers.
I know you probably aren't familiar with too many of us personally in our backgrounds and what we do, but I think there's quite a few of us that would agree with a lot of what you said. And we are aware of a lot of the struggles that we face against the city, and we do a lot about them. We're glad to see that somebody pays attention to what we're doing and keeps us in check too, I think.
Well, I'm all over it.
So I just wanted to basically say thank you for having the courage to say what you said, and thank you for any...
Could I just make a clarification? Am I allowed to rebut?
Just because we're in this committee room and it is more informal, but I'll give you the final word and we're going to move on to the next.
Did you just say accessibility issues against the city, or okay? Did you kind of?
I probably shouldn't have read it.
No, that's okay. That's quite all right. I just want to point that out, that you said that, and I also want to say that we shouldn't have to feel that way. I feel that way, and I'm sure there are a lot of other people that feel that way, that we are somehow pitted against the City of Toronto in terms of getting our accessibility rights. So what I'll say is this. I've heard that apparently the mayor of our city, and this is directed toward his staff, I hope they're taking notes.
You can direct your comments to me as a chair.
Okay, so through the chair to the mayor, he talked a really good game during the campaign. Actually, I think I put his accessibility words in his mouth. So I'd like to see him at the next meeting of this committee, because I heard that he's really up on accessibility issues. Thank you.
I will make sure that the mayor he knows he's invited to our committee. Thank you very much. Actually, the clerk will actually want to make sure that you're registered as a speaker, and I'm going to ask this gentleman to introduce himself, and I'm going to start your clock. If you can take a look at it, you'll have 5 minutes right there.
My name is Tom Sloan.
You're going to have to speak into the microphone. And be reminded that it's being broadcasted.
My name is Tom Sloan. I've suffered from mental illness since 1972. Since that time, we've got better things. We get wheelchair accessibility everywhere. We do all we can. And I myself spent 18 months trying to figure out what we should do as far as empowerment committee. You know something? You guys are their friends. You're in here on your time, and they're your friends. But I just want to say that I took me 18 months to get this thing done, and I also was chair for a while. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. And I do believe that we have one additional speaker, and that might be our final speaker on item number 2. And I'm going to ask Mercy Okalowi, and I apologize if I mispronounce your name. Okay.
That's fine. It's Mercy O'Calloway.
Oh, sorry. Yes.
It's all right. No, I was just noticing the clock hasn't been reset.
Thank you.
All right, thanks very much. Good afternoon. I'm really glad to see you all here, and I think there's one familiar face. As I said, my name is Mercy O'Calloway. I recently joined the ODSP Action Coalition because I was accepted onto that disability support program, which is obviously run by the province. And in the interim, I had an opportunity to speak with City Councillor Gord Perks, who gave me a little bit of insight into how the city runs, and that the city is actually exists due to legislature from the province. Now, in terms of membership, I'm wondering, based on my experiences as a participant of ODSP and the role that the province plays in determining my livelihood, essentially, I'm wondering how the membership reflects that relationship between the city and the province. I feel that the province plays a very, very dominant role in my experience as a person who identifies
as having a disability, in that they are the ones who issue me the check that enables me to pay my rent and buy a little bit of food and pay some utilities. However, my rent, my food, my utilities are all very closely tied to what happens in the city, not what happens in the province. As an example, my rent was quite different when I was living in London, Ontario, than it was now living in Toronto. So I really am wondering how the membership might better reflect the role that the provincial government plays, and how that relationship can be addressed. Thank you.
Sorry. Thank you very much, Mercy, for your deputation. Are there any questions to the deputant? No? Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. So we're just going to bring this back into the internal committee for discussion. And I recognize that there's sort of two items open before us. I want to just conclude item number 2 with respect to the membership composition. Are there any amendments to what is proposed to us right now? Oh, sorry, Terry Lynn?
I just wanted to speak to some of the comments without directing them to anyone in particular. Is that okay?
You can speak to the item, that is for sure.
Okay.
Yep. Are you planning to ask for a motion, or are you planning to move anything?
No, I'm gonna speak and hopefully clear up some things.
Okay, please go ahead.
I just wanted to say that this committee is fairly diverse, and in terms of its mental health representation, I know that I've shared with the committee that I have like a mental health diagnosis. And so like, that's one of the things that, just to be obvious, you wouldn't know. And you wouldn't know about other invisible disabilities either. And because I know like people on the committee and like, we've done work together and things, I know that lots of people here have been on ODSP, Ontario Works, have experienced unemployment, being underhoused and doing work in terms of access to housing and basic needs and stuff like that. So I wanted to clear that up as well. I do think as a committee, and I think there is agreement on the committee that we have some work to do in terms of diversity, and that's really important. So I appreciate that particular comment. But I did want to clear up, like make things known that might not be apparent right away. And also to say in terms of meeting every 2 months, we did share that the committees meet quite frequently, the subcommittees. And we meet as things arise. And we also respond to members of the public as things arise as well. It's not just like we can only respond to something because we've met as an entire committee.
Thank you very much, Terry Lynn. Are there any other speakers to the item? Tracy?
Just thinking about membership and how it was structured. I know when I came on board, there was an application process, submitted resumes, came in for an interview, and decisions were made from there, which resulted in most of us around the table and some other people. I've also worked with other advisory groups that would assign a seat for a particular sector, and then the people with that sector interest could nominate people, and so someone would represent a sector. So that's just another way of doing it, and I just wanted to put that out for some discussion to see if people felt that one would be a better way to go than the other.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much for that suggestion. I'm going to ask a question of staff, if I may. I think that everyone in the committee is probably aware that the recruitment process is going to go through the Access, Equity, and Human Rights Office this year. And so they're going to be casting a very wide lens over membership composition. Am I correct to assume that? And can you speak into the microphone?
Yes. Yes, that is noted in the terms of reference.
Yeah. And that's specifically in response to concerns to make sure that we have the widest possible range of diversity of abilities and disabilities in this advisory committee. Is that correct?
Yes.
And Bernita, did you want to add anything to that?
I just want to clarify the process. The application form, while all the details are not available for you today, the application process has changed a little bit in that the Public Appointments Committee will be the ones to receive recommendations as to who the members will be. I'm kind of going at this backwards. So when you're completing an application form this round, it will all be online and it will be an accessible application form. That will not be ready for a little bit. I think we're aiming for March or so when the application forms will be completely accessible. After that, the actual recruitment and selection process will be the responsibility of the Equity, Diversity, and Human Rights Division as the supporting division to this Disability Issues Committee. I'm going to call it by the old name for now. So yes, in terms of ensuring that we have a wide enough pool, we'll likely be using as many the strategies will be quite far-flung so that we can reach a broad number of people, diverse groups, diverse disabilities, so that everyone has an opportunity to apply. I also understand that the application process is continuous intake. So even if you apply and, you know, for some reason the cutoff is such that you don't make it to that cutoff, the name remains on the roster until the next process.
Okay, so thank you very much, Bernita, for the clarification. That's all very good information for us to have in this committee. If there are no requests for amending the membership composition and what's before us, what I'd like to do is just move to adopt item number 2. All in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, and any opposed? No? So that passes. Thank you very much. Now, I'm just being mindful of time. We've got about 37 minutes to go through the entire work plan for 2015 and 2018. What you have before you, and we're going to save 5 minutes at the end of the meeting to come back to item number 1. What you have before you is a series of conversations that I've had now with Bernita's office, with the city clerk. I reviewed all the past agendas that you have had over the last term of council, and every single item that was before us. And there were some emerging issues that I thought that we needed to add to the potential and proposed work plan. One new item you will see before you as well is the 2014 municipal elections report on accessibility. And so I want to just open up the floor to have, really some discussions on, based on what, literally what we've put together, and this is conversations between my staff person and Bernita, is do we have everything covered? So if I want to just bring your attention to item number 1. Item number 1 is the creation of a symposium in this year, in 2015, where we actually bring together a wide range of people, including those members from the Accessibility Directorate of Ontario, and we're going to put together a symposium at City Hall and to really understand what the issues are and to report back on the work this committee has been doing, and the agenda for that day will be set in the future. And that will be a real concrete action item for this year. So that's what item number 1 is. Item number 2 goes back to a report that I just mentioned around the municipal elections report on accessibility. Then we broke it into item number 3, and there's a whole series of subcategories under transit and transportation. In this upcoming term for our work plan, I'd like us to ensure that we can adequately address any issues we need to speak to around the 2015 Parapan Games, a review of the new accessible taxis. I understand that there's some things in motion there, as well as to really drill down, and we may end up putting TTC on the hot seat for their accessibility plan, their multi-year accessibility plan, as well as accessible bus routes, and in particular Eglinton Avenue East and Rumsey Road, and this is an item that was left over from the last term of council, and then separated bike lanes. So that's what I have under transportation and transit. So item 1, 2, and 3, I'm going to stop there. Perhaps we can open the floor for discussion just on those 1, 2, and 3 items. So in particular, my question to the committee right now is this something that we should be are these items that we should be looking at? should this be on our work plan for 2015 to 2018? Don't all get excited. I know it's more work. Helen?
I think definitely these are good breakdowns and that we should be involved in all of them. And I know, well, Tracy has done a lot of work around transportation. She probably knows better than any of us.
Okay. This is, I'm not hearing a lot of people jumping up, so it's either very good or very bad. And Tracy, did you want to add something? And Monica, I see your hand going up.
Yeah, just there's always a great list of things to work on. There needs to be room for things to pop up. There were a lot of things that popped up in our last term. And, you know, I've actually given some thought to, you know, I think that the working group structure or the subcommittee structure, whatever we want to call it, was very effective. And I've given some thought to, I guess, the buckets that some of these things would fit into. And, you know, when it suits the, you know, for the discussion, I'd like to present what I think those topics might be.
Okay. Thank you very much. Monica.
Yeah, I just want to put my voice forward. These are definitely things I'm particularly interested in the elections, and I'm really curious about how the Parapan and the Pan Am Games are going to affect everything. I also would like to talk about the committees, because while there were a couple of committees that had very clear mandates and could move forward on several items because they were pretty straightforward, there were a couple of us that floundered because we weren't given a clear mandate as to what we were supposed to do. And every time we came up with an idea, oh, no, that's not for an advisory committee, that's for something else. And so I just want to make sure that each committee has an equal amount of work and has an actual mandate that they can actually move forward on things.
Thank you. That's actually very helpful. Thank you for flagging that. Sandra.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with this work plan, but it's like, I don't see anything around the housing, homelessness, kind of poverty issue, and I really think that should be part of our work as well. As I really do see them as all interconnected.
So it sounds to me that there's an amendment coming to you, from you, that perhaps we add one other item, and that item would be around housing and poverty reduction?
Yeah, housing, homelessness, yeah, the whole thing.
Okay.
Because it is a disability issue, because they've done studies of homeless people, and the portion of them that's got some kind of ABI issue is really very high. So, okay. And I guess I'm just sort of thinking about various things that have disturbed me lately, like people going back to abusive relationships because they can't afford housing. And to me, that's a type of disability as well. So.
Okay. Thank you, Sandra. Any new speakers to the item? I see Yin's hand and Terry Lynn. Terry Lynn first.
I sort of want to give this this to the Transportation Committee. One of the things that they came up with was just the idea of public space. And so they had a great proposal around maybe a future committee, but I wanted to see public space in particular on the agenda. It also allows us to look at things like inclusion and how space is used in the city, which can also link to poverty and homelessness and things like that.
Thank you very much, Terry Lynn. And Yin?
Yes, are we, sorry, I don't have the list in front of me because I can't see. Are we just talking about the list for transportation or our work plan altogether?
My apologies. It is actually the proposed work plan for this upcoming year. So what I did was, there's actually 5 categories and possibly a 6th if we add housing, homelessness, and poverty reduction. And I read 1 to 3 only.
Oh.
What I didn't read, but I'll just sort of read out loud very quickly, is number 4, which is public realm, which includes the parks plan. And this is an item that was left over from the last term of council. The City of Toronto's accessibility design guidelines. There is a brand new revision coming out in 2015. It's actually a very exciting document for us to get our little hands on. The wayfinding strategy, or the wayfinding signage, outdoor cafe bylaws and guidelines. So some of this is remaining work from the previous term. Multi-use trail guidelines, recreation facilities master plan, and I'm going to add complete streets, which is coming through from the chief planner's office. I understand that her office has approached Bernita twice, and they would like to come and definitely present to this committee. So that's item 4. And then item 5 would be additional leftover items from last term of council, including Toronto Police Service, a new design for the Toronto's utility bill, and item 6 that we would have added would be the housing, homelessness, and poverty reduction piece.
That's what I wanted to clarify, because I thought, the public space, outdoor cafe, all that, as long as they're included. So we're not just talking about transportation, but I do want to be mindful of the timeline in dealing with some of these issues, because I know in some of these topics or has to come to a decision in their own different departments. So the way we work out so what's in the first year, what's in the second year, that kind of matters.
Yeah, thank you, Yin. New speakers? Going back to second round of speakers, Monica.
I'm not sure where it would fit in, but as Mark actually brought up, and since I represent an organization that's solely about employment of persons with disabilities, I'm not sure where we put it in, if it would be poverty reduction and stuff, but just to make sure that somehow a message is going out to the city about, consider everyone. I know that it's part of the city's mandate to look at everyone when they're hiring for city jobs, but I don't know if there's any other way that we can incorporate that in.
That's a very good question. If we can, given what Monica just talked about in terms of employment opportunity for people living with disabilities, is there a separate category that we should be adding? Or can we include that into poverty reduction? Or is it a whole new employment strategies for people living with disabilities?
I think it's separate.
It's separate? Okay, so then
like related, but it's separate, yeah.
So now in my notes, you can't see it, but I'm going to read it to you. So what I'm hearing is 1, 2, 3. Looks like we don't need to make any changes. Item number 4 under the header public realm, we're going to add one more, and that's F, and that's complete streets. Item number 5, which is the other outstanding items from the last term of council, we're going to add section C, and that heading will be housing, homelessness, and poverty reduction. And then we're going to add right after that a section D, employment opportunities. Is that reasonable? Are there any changes to that language? No? Okay, so I'm seeing lots of heads nodding, so that's a good sign. Sandra, are you speaking?
We can't see separating out employment from a poverty reduction strategy.
Do you think that out of our natural course of discussions around employment that we will include, around poverty reduction, that we will include employment, or do you want to see them merged together?
No, I think it can be a subset, like a, ABC or whatever.
Okay, so what happens? Okay, so why don't I do this? I'm going to propose this now, okay? So we have, section 5, A, B, and so section C would read poverty reduction. Subsection I, and then 2I and 3 I's, would be housing, homelessness, and employment.
But it's not outstanding from last council, is it?
No, sorry, you're right. It's not outstanding. So it'd be number 6. Sorry.
Yeah.
And then we would break that down into subsection A, B, and C. Thank you.
Yeah.
So everyone got that? Okay, good. Fast group, smart group. Okay, so is there anything else that's not? That's a big work plan, folks. We're going to be busy for some time. Are there any other comments about the work plan? Okay, sorry, Terry Lynn, and then I see Yin, Tracy.
I'm just wondering if people think that the issues around public streets and stuff, if that encompasses everything around public space. Because I feel differently about it. Like, I feel like sometimes public space means like being able to access because you're a low-income person, or like where people can be to be safe, not necessarily always about access. So I'm just wondering if people feel it's like worth putting in a subset of public space or including public space in that part, or if it's just me, I'm okay with that. I'm not stuck on the issue, but I just feel like it's a bit different.
Okay. That sounds like a question going out to the committee for some comments. Yin and then Tracy. And feel free to respond to Terry Lynn. Oh, and Sandra.
I'm not really responding to Terry Lynn, okay, but more back to the symposium. That's not our work plan, I understand, right? I
am. It was actually, I'm adding it to the work plan. You will all be invited, of course, because I expect everyone to have an active role in helping us craft out the agenda and what we want the symposium to achieve as an outcome. But I will be working with staff to bring forward a proposal, possibly in the next meeting or the subsequent meeting after that, of what we want this symposium to look like, the proposed date, who should we invite as speakers, and you will have an opportunity to speak to those items.
Okay. Just one quickly. Do you have an idea of the audience? Are you aiming for the general public to come to this symposium, and that the main objective is it just information to tell people what the city has been doing with regards to disability and access?
So I'm just going to try to respond to that. So yes, the symposium will be open to all. The desired outcome would be twofold. One is not to co-opt people to come out and tell us again what their issues are, because quite honestly, I have, being a member of an equity-seeking group myself, too often have I been asked to come out and tell my story. This particular symposium is going to be action-oriented, and it's going to be about public awareness. And I did preface my remarks at the very beginning of the committee that I wanted to elevate the profile of this committee and the work that this committee is doing and the work that the City of Toronto is doing to raise awareness that these issues are important, but also to inform members of public, whether those are living with disabilities or not, that we have a lot to do into the future for the city. So that's what we hope as an outcome, and also to recognize good work when it is being done, including members of this committee. I hope that that helps. And of course, there's also the guideline changes that are coming forward, and the fact that we are meeting now, we are going to be meeting now regularly on moving forward with the Accessibility Directorate of Ontario, because they've written this body of legislation called the Accessibilities of Ontarians' Disabilities Act, and there's a whole bunch of questions around what do we do with it. And I know that I'm hearing from business operators, I'm hearing from agencies on how do they implement AODA. So it's also an opportunity for us to bring the province out, and that is part of the outcome. Tracy?
Would this be a good time to suggest the working groups or the subcommittees?
I'm sorry, is this a good time to, if you can just repeat that one more time, I didn't quite.
Would this be a good time for me to suggest the working groups or subcommittees that might address the work plan?
Yeah, this would be a good time because we're talking about the work plan now.
Okay. So up until now, we've had 3 working groups. And going forward and looking at the range of items on this plan, it seemed to me that it might make sense to have 4 working groups with about 3 people on each one. One would address matters relating to policy, so, housing, employment policy, that sort of thing. Transportation, just as what's listed there, would be covered. One for public spaces, which would cover the things under the public realm area, and perhaps a few others. And finally, one on public engagement, which would include the symposium, elections, ways to connect with the public about the work that the committee does, and to hear from people as well. So that was my thought.
Okay, thank you, Tracy. Monica?
My question was going back to the symposium. Had you had any sort of timeline in place as to when you wanted to see it happen, other than 2015?
Yeah, we haven't quite gotten that far, to be quite honest, but I can tell you that prior to leading up to this meeting, I've been in a series of meetings trying to understand all that you were working on prior to council concluding for the election, and I've been trying to run to catch up to speed. So what I can tell you is that we're sorting this out with staff, but as soon as we have a date available, we're going to let you know, so you can at least hold on to the date, and then we'll report back to let you know what we think the symposium can look like and to solicit your feedback to make sure that we're on the right track.
I'd like to make a suggestion.
Yes, please.
December 3rd.
December 3rd?
United Nations International Day of Persons with Disabilities.
Okay.
The city has never properly done anything with that day, and it might be a very good time to really go forward with bringing this to the public, and it would give you lots of lead time to be able to put the symposium together.
Okay, we're definitely going to take that under advisement. Thank you very much. Okay, as long as there's no council meeting on that day. Yes, is that Sandra's voice?
Yes, it
yeah.
is. I'm just looking at this work plan, and some of them, it makes sense that we can do within a year, but some of them are going to take longer.
Mm-hmm. This is a work plan, just to clarify, for the term.
Yeah, but for the term, if it's a 4-year term, it's a 4-year work plan then?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. And I suspect that some of this will spill over to the 2018 to 2022 work plan. But we are going to do the best that we can to check off some boxes. So I'm just going to recap what I've heard so far, if that's okay, and we're going to then move to adopt the item. So under 1, 2, and 3, there's nothing to add, nothing to change, nothing to amend. Item number 4 under public realm, we're going to throw in the categories of complete streets and a new category around safety. And it's that in Terry Lynn, this is specifically in response to what you were saying. Okay, so item number 5 is fine, and we added new item number 6, subsection A, housing, subsection B, homelessness, subsection C, employment. And then we sort of informally, it doesn't necessarily need to go into the work plan, is the listing of the working groups, which are ongoing. Is that correct? Have I missed anything? No? All in favor of the amended work plan? Put up your hand if you can. And oppose? Give me a raspberry? No? Okay, so that passes. Great. Okay, so we are making good progress in time. Going back to item number 1. Remember what we were talking about at the beginning? The terms of reference in the name of the committee. So I have some advice from City Legal, and I'm going to read out just an amendment to the terms of reference. So the section C4 under the title Governance in the draft Disabilities Issues Committee, terms of reference be amended to read, the committee shall schedule meetings every 2 months. Okay. And with respect to the name of the committee, and we will have to vote on this first, are there any questions to myself, the mover of this motion, this amendment? Oh, sorry, Monica?
Should we be including the committee meetings as well in that statement, or is that just something that's going to happen as it needs to?
I think we will leave it. I think we will leave it a little bit looser because we don't know all the dates yet.
Okay.
Okay. I actually have the dates for the first 4 meetings, but we're going to go back and revisit those dates because we're going to slide in 2 more. Okay. So sorry about that. All in favor, please raise your hand if you can. Okay. And those opposed? Seeing none, that will pass. And then item number, the second motion, that the Disabilities Issue Committee consider the following proposed names for the committee. A, Disabilities and Accessibility Advisory Committee. 2, Disabilities and Access Advisory Committee. 3, Disabilities and Inclusiveness Advisory Committee. 4, Advisory Committee for Disability Access and Inclusion. 5, Disabilities Access and Inclusion Advisory Committee. So all we're doing right now, just to clarify, you're not amending our name to be 5 different subcommittee names. We're basically directing ourselves to consider them for the next meeting. Is there a question of the mover? Yes, Monica.
Just for grammatic correction, it should be Disability Access and Inclusion Advisory Committee, not disabilities.
Okay, thank you. Noted. Okay, so while the clerk is making that correction, if there's no further questions of the mover, I'm going to ask everyone to raise their hand if they can to adopt that motion. All in favor, hands up, thank you. And then opposed, none. That has been passed. So we've actually done such a good job at this meeting that we've actually run out of things to talk about, which is hard to believe. Yin?
Regarding the dates, Friday afternoon may be not a good time, especially in the summer. So, people might just end up not attending as much. Can there be consideration in having it in the mornings? That's my recommendation for the actual setting of dates.
Yeah, I think that was just a recommendation for us when we consider looking at those potential dates for the calendar. I recognize that we will not be meeting again for another 2 months, so we are going to send out those dates as soon as they are available. We did have 4 dates that were proposed for this coming year, but because we're going to have to reshuffle the deck to make sure that we have a meeting every 2 months, I'm going to hold off on sharing these dates with you right now, but we will share them via email so you can at least hold the dates in your calendar. Yeah. Is that all right? Yes.
So since we have some time, would it be a good time to confirm if those are the subcommittee groups we want to establish, and maybe give people an option to jot down on a piece of paper which one or ones of those they might be interested to participate on?
That would be fine, because what we can do, I don't believe that... Yes, so to answer your question, Tracy, yes, that would be fine. We have time, and I recognize that some of you folks will probably have made arrangements for Wheel-Trans, but because we have the availability of time, we can probably discuss that. Monica? And then Helen.
Yeah, I'm just going to ask a slightly different question, which kind of relates to the committee discussion. How long do you think the appointment process will take? Because if we're meeting in 2 months again, is it going to be the old committee, or are we talking about the new committee? That's kind of what I'm trying to, because should we really be talking about the subcommittees if we're not sure who's going to be on the actual advisory committee?
I'm going to ask Bernita to help answer that question.
I'm going to go out on a limb here. Are we working with the April date, Janice? Is that the second?
So
I would say it would be this current membership sorry.
Okay. So Bernita is suggesting that, maybe what I can do is simply we're having this discussion. I'll share with you the next date that we had proposed. And just so everyone is aware, it took us some time to figure out what the 4 dates were going to be, just because council is so incredibly busy. But our proposed meeting date for the next date was actually going to be April the 28th at 9:30, which is a Wednesday. So there's a very good chance that we will probably not have a brand new committee convened yet. I don't believe that we would have been able to have the appointment committee and the Access, Equity, Diversity, Human Rights Office get their work done for recruitment and have council appoint. So that means you are all back to do this work. So to answer your question, Monica, whether or not it would be a good idea for us to sort of start going through the working subcommittees, the working groups, it may be a little bit premature. Okay, go ahead.
Another comment. Given the timelines and the fact that we're regrouping and everything else, perhaps we should be tabling some stuff about the Pan Am Games right away that we can all, as one big committee, start working on behind the scenes before April 28th, because that's coming up very quickly. And if there are issues to be looked at, we're going to lose a lot of time if we don't do anything between now and April 28th, and then have to wait and see if we're on the committee, and then the next meeting will be in June, and before we know it, the Pan Am Games are going to be on top of our heads. So I'm just wondering if there's something that we should be looking at towards that particular topic in our work group, because it's coming up right away.
So there's suggestions that perhaps we request the Pan Am organizers to come before us to present what is their strategy regarding accessibility. I certainly think that is something that I've heard quite a bit about, that the Pan Am Games are coming, the Pan Am Games are coming. Is the city ready to host? And in particular, are we ready to receive thousands of athletes who are living with disabilities on our city streets? So if that is of interest, we will certainly put that on the next agenda item, so then we can at least be informed of what their strategy is on making the city more accessible, and we can also inform them if whether or not we think they're on the right track, or whether or not they're doing enough, or perhaps they're doing plenty.
So can I move then to put that on the agenda for the April 28th meeting? Is that
yes,
how it would work?
You
I'd
can.
like to move to have the Pan Am committee representatives here at the April 28th meeting.
Yeah, so just to revise the motion, so it would be a motion requesting the executive committee directing the Pan Am staff to come before this committee to provide us with a presentation on their accessibility strategy.
Yeah, I'll agree with that, yeah.
Okay, so while the clerk is drafting that up, is there anything else? Helen?
I would just like, this may not be the right time to do it, but there's another issue that we've all been talking about that has a time element, and that is the relationship between Wheel-Trans and the new laws about no stopping during rush hours. And there's an added element to it just now in that snow removal is often, they often pile the snow up over the curb cuts. And that means that drivers have to go even further and will be away from their vehicles for an even longer time. So that if we could ask whoever's in charge of snow removal to perhaps make sure that they don't disable us by piling snow on curb cuts.
So Helen, just to clarify, it sounds to me that you're asking this committee to perhaps request that the executive committee direct city staff, appropriate city staff, to number one, revise the TTC access routes as it pertains to Wheel-Trans. No, I missed that.
Well,
because it's a little bit difficult to sort of craft motions in my head.
Right. No, I'm thinking that it's not just TTC routes, but it would be Wheel-Trans and cabs and door openers. I tried to get into the bank the other day. The doorway had been cleared, but they'd piled the snow in front of the access buttons, so I couldn't get in. When I mentioned this, they said, oh, we'll call the so-and-so who will call so-and-so who will call so-and-so, when somebody could have got a shovel and just, you know, there are just issues around the snow, and those issues are going to affect the strategy on no stopping during rush hour. They're going to exacerbate that issue.
Monica?
Just because there are people who are listening who may not know what we're talking about because this was all done in email. There was with the new bylaw that you can't stop anywhere in downtown Toronto without getting a $150 ticket. The issue is that the TTC Wheel-Trans uses vans and taxi cabs to transport people who do not require the huge TTC accessible vehicles. And so, but the issue also is that the cab driver is expected to leave his or her cab, go inside the building to get the person who's being transported and help them and make sure they're safely get to the car. And in that meantime, police are ticketing the taxi drivers with $150 tickets, which means they are making absolutely no money and losing money, and therefore will not be able to help us. And so the issue, they say that if the police have answered back and said that if they see somebody helping somebody with a disability towards the unattended vehicle, then they're told to use their discretion and not give a ticket. But my goodness, these people have to go inside the building to get someone, especially when it's minus 30 wind chill. Nobody's going to stand outside willingly and freeze to death doing that. And so they will not be seen, and therefore will get a $150 ticket when all they're doing is trying to get a person with a disability into the vehicle that they need to get to where they're going. And it's making it impossible for cab drivers to commit to their TTC obligations for Wheel-Trans, and it's just a bad thing all around. So we need, that's what Helen is talking about, we need a strong voice saying that they need to see the sticker on the cab that says Wheel-Trans and leave it alone. Don't look at it, don't even think about it, just walk away.
Are there any other comments about this item? And I recognize that this is, Mayor Tory is trying to beat congestion. He's doing everything he can to remove vehicles off the roadway that are parked illegally during peak hours. But while that good intention is taking place, he's also creating some inconveniences, not he himself per se, but inconveniences and difficulties are now being created for people of all abilities, including those with disabilities. Is that what I'm hearing? I'm seeing lots of nods. Okay, so the mayor staff is here. We're not trying to, obviously, I recognize that the committee is trying to advocate for those who are living with disabilities, those who require Wheel-Trans, who are using accessible taxis. There is the option of being parked around the corner and having them roll up the street is not an option, and not push a stroller up the street or not walk, push a walker up the street, especially if there's a lot of icy and slippery conditions. So how do we balance those needs? So that's what we're talking about right now, just to summarize. Any other comments about this issue? Tracy?
No, it's this request for an agenda item next time.
Okay, so why don't we conclude this particular topic then? And Councillor Layton.
Did you wish to have a motion to the effect of request? I think I've got it. Okay. I'm being one of the people who
let us off the hook.
Being one of the people that originally drafted the $150. At one point, it was a $500 fine that we wanted. It was certainly the target was folks that were using it by convenience rather than folks that were using it by necessity. And so, and forgive me, I've probably done this in the last 20 seconds. And so I think we can do it by saying recommend the executive committee, because we can't so it's important to distinguish. I don't believe we can instruct the Toronto Police to do anything, even remain on budget. But I believe what we can do is request them to. So if we said if this committee, whatever its new name shall be, recommend
using the old name.
Recommend to the executive committee to request the Toronto Police Services instruct, and I believe they're called provincial enforcement.
Toronto might be Toronto Parking Enforcement.
But the officers themselves, I thought they were drug parking enforcement. Let's call them that for now. Not ticket and something along the lines of service vehicles being used as part of the Wheel-Trans program.
On the street.
I think you may have to expand beyond Wheel-Trans, perhaps include taxis, accessible taxis. Sorry, Monica, and then Sandra.
Yeah, because the issue is that taxis are being used by Wheel-Trans. because they don't have enough things. So anybody that has the Wheel-Trans symbol on their vehicle is being used by Wheel-Trans to pick up somebody with a disability. And that's what we're looking for, and that's the problem.
But if, my apologies, because I don't know how they, sorry, it's the committee process. I just want to make sure I'm not speaking out of turn. If we refer to it as the Wheel-Trans program, does that not
Then put in brackets, which
including
the use of taxis and vans. Yeah.
I don't want to see them contracting for Wheel-Trans, because there's a lot of us that use wheelchair accessible vehicles.
Okay.
Just because Wheel-Trans is so inconvenient.
Okay.
So.
Just one other thing, instead of just recommends, can we use the terminology strongly recommends? In our strongest possible way,
I think for the purpose of the committee, we normally just use the word recommends.
Okay.
But that's just, I don't know why we don't use strongly recommends or.
It's just such a time-sensitive issue, because right now with all the snow on the ground, it's even harder. And if people get stuck, stranded on the side of the street because the cab left because he didn't want to pay another $150 fine, then what are you going to do with all these people stranded on the street?
Melissa?
I just wanted to add that for any parking tickets that accidentally get charged to people working for Wheel-Trans or for any accessible cab company, that there be a way to get out of that without, I don't know the right language to use here, but I'm looking, I guess, to support the cab drivers who don't make a lot of money, who may end up paying for these fines and then being reimbursed for them later. I don't know how that works, but I'm just concerned about drivers that may accidentally get charged and then having a quick way to adjust that. That wasn't terribly clear of me, but.
Terry Lynn.
A couple of things. I haven't taken Wheel-Trans for about 12 years now, but I'm aware that if you're not taking an accessible, like TTC vehicle, you're not going to know if that particular Beck taxi or that particular co-op taxi is a Wheel-Trans taxi. So right now there's no uniform way to represent that. And also, as Sandra said, there are a lot of people that will take accessible vehicles, be it another accessible company or even their own vehicles that need the same thing. And I would say, I don't mean to complicate matters, but maybe to say that it's part of the integrated accessibility standard and that it's also a safety issue for the community. But there needs to be a system for redress as well for individuals that feel that they have been charged wrongly, as Melissa was saying. And there also needs to be, I think, because I don't know how else to get around it, but a way that those vehicles can be identified or self-declare identification if there is an issue like that's disputed. And all of this that I'm saying, it's now sounding like it's going to cost a lot of money. But these are all the things that I can think about that are barriers.
Okay, so are there any other comments about this particular item? Yin?
Just to say that the blind and partially sighted community, we do take cabs because we're not really eligible for Wheel-Trans. So how do you identify cabs that are just regular cabs, but they have brought us inside or went inside to get us? So
we don't report to the executive.
If there are no more committee members who have any questions or comments about this item right now, and I recognize that Councillor Layton is working on a motion, there's a draft of a motion I have for you here, Councillor Layton, as well, if you want to bring it to the councillor for review. I'm going to, again, sort of deviate from the not so far from the agenda, but I want to open the floor because there is someone who is who's taken the time to join our committee who would like to speak to this particular item, and he wants to speak about accessible taxis. And that gentleman is Peter Anthonopoulos. If you can come to the top of the room, And we're going to make some space for you and just hit the light so you can have your speaker on, your microphone on, sorry. And by that time you finish speaking, I think Councillor Layton would be ready with his motion.
Great. Hi, everyone. My name is Peter Athanasopoulos, and I'm here representing Spinal Cord Injury Ontario. And I mainly have a question around this committee and how it responds to immediate issues. So, for example, using the accessible taxis as an example, you know, the licensing and municipal, the MLS, the Municipal License Committee, made decisions around what type of accessible vehicles should be put on the floor. They haven't been advised by this council because this council hasn't met, and those decisions have been made and moved forward, and now we have unsafe accessible taxis on the road today. And now we have to work harder to repair those problems than if this committee were advised, if the public were aware of what decisions were made and bylaws were not put in play, that now we have to change. How does this committee address those kinds of issues when they're meeting in a 2-month interval when there's things that need to happen tomorrow? I welcome how this committee addresses issues of this nature.
Hi. In the past, when something this urgent has come up, we have conversed via email, and I'll come up with a statement that we then send to Bernita, who puts it forward to where it needs to go. Remember, we're just an advisory committee. So all we can do is try to strongly recommend things.
So when one city committee fails to seek advice from the Disability Issues Committee, and decisions are made that without your advisory.
Then we spend a lot of time redressing them. We've done that a lot in the past as well.
So basically, we just have to live with the fact that when city committees do not advise this committee on issues and issues are being made, we just have to live with that?
We're trying to change it. We really are. It's a very difficult slog.
Okay.
But we have been working towards trying to make everybody understand that they should ask us because we can give them insight that they don't have. And there have been several presentations by several different city departments to this group, and we've come up with things that go, oh, we never thought of that. Oh, let's put that in. We're really hoping that the communication out to City Council and to the other committees will be to come and ask us questions. We're not trying to shut them down. We're just trying to save them a lot of grief later.
For sure. And the reason I wanted to bring this forward is because the city really worked hard on a taxi review to get it right. And now we're back in the place where we have to repair some of the things and the goodwill that this city has worked on so hard. And now we're in a place where we have unsafe accessible vehicles on the road. And it's an issue. I just fear that if somebody gets rear-entried, hit in an accident, that the person with a disability using that rear entry will be trapped in that vehicle. And it would be a shame that somebody has to get seriously hurt before the city changes its bylaws.
So I just want to acknowledge that there are some hands that have gone up, and I don't know if they are questions specifically to our visitor today, or if they're just questions or comments within the committee. And Yin, and then Stephanie, and then Terry Lynn.
It is true, especially with the municipal election, that a lot of things got not brought forth to the this committee. We rely on the city staff to inform us of issues coming up, but we also rely on the community at large to alert us of issues that we should address, and that has also happened. So I would encourage Peter and other communities, if there are urgent issues, you're more than welcome to send it to Bernita or to us, and then we will address it. And especially if we have the sub-working groups, we usually address it as soon as we can.
Thank you.
And Stephanie, then Terry Lynn.
Just a comment that I think the underlying goal of this committee is to have the city look through an inclusive lens to begin with, and when projects are being started, to actually include everyone, including persons with disabilities. And we've got a long way to go, but that is really what our purpose is, and we try to do that, and we do try to encourage city divisions and so on to start projects with that in mind, rather than look at persons with disabilities as an after fact, after they've done their planning.
And after Stephanie, Terry Lynn, and I know that Bernita also has some comments about this.
Peter, I just wanted to say thank you for your deputation. And also, this very issue that you're raising was raised by Fran Odette and brought to the attention of the committee several months ago. It was given directly to Bernita, and Bernita sent it to MLS, Municipal Licensing and Standards, so they're aware of the issue. And they're working on ameliorating the problems with that particular issue, right? Yeah. So it's already been raised, and Bernita has helped us move that forward, and she's going to say more about that now as well.
Okay, so if I may, hi Peter, thank you for your deputation. So what I'm hearing is really the issue around accessible taxis, rear versus side entry. Am I correct?
That's right.
And when this committee can become involved in that whole process. I just wanted to provide you with some background information. The Disability Issues Committee, this particular membership has been involved in the accessible taxi cab industry review from the beginning. This particular committee continues to be a place where Municipal Licensing and Standards, which is the division that's responsible for licensing accessible cabs, turns to for advice, ongoing advice. The issue around side versus rear entry and safety has been raised on many occasions, such as the example that Terry Lynn just brought up and others that we've been receiving on an ongoing basis. So I don't mean to speak for MLS, but what I understand is that there is to be a report coming forward from their shop, I think in the second quarter of this year, regarding their findings, which will include side versus rear entry vehicles. The one aspect I've come to understand is the designation of the standard that's being used for accessible cabs and vans comes from the federal government. It's a federal jurisdiction, and the city has been trying to get a spokesperson from the national level to speak about their standards regarding rear versus side. And we've expressed the issues around safety that we've heard from many community members, and that's the most recent update that I have. I don't have a hard and fast answer, but I know that the Disability Issues Committee members have been participating throughout that review process and will continue to participate in that process.
Well, thank you very much for taking the time to answer these questions. And if I could just make one comment, that Spinal Cord Injury Ontario's membership is very interested in this topic and has been involved in over the last couple of years. And if there's anything that our organization can do to support the work of this committee to resolve this issue, we're willing to entertain whatever you have to say. Thank you.
Peter, thank you very much for taking the time today. For those who are actually in City Hall and wondering why do we deviate so much from a normal meeting protocol and procedures, I just want to draw their attention to the fact that we're working in accordance with Council's simplified procedures for advisory bodies. So, and also I recognize that for those who are coming forward to speak to these items, usually in most meetings it's quite regimented. Once you've missed the opportunity to speak, you don't get another opportunity. But because we are the Disabilities Issues Committee, and we want to ensure that everyone has access to speak to these issues that are very, very important. That is why there's such almost an informal process right now. Because this is the very first time that this meeting is being broadcast. I'm sure there's all sorts of questions on why is Councillor Wong Tam chairing the meeting in such fashion. That is why. And with that, there's actually a request from one more person from the public to speak to, I believe, this item. And are they interested in coming forward? And they are. Okay, so please come to the front of the room and take a chair. Hit the yellow button. That'll turn on your microphone, and you'll have 5 minutes. And then after the speaker, we're going to start moving some motions and getting some business done.
Hello, thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak. I'm here as an individual, but as well representing Spinal Cord Injury Ontario Employment Services Department.
May I ask you to state your name, please?
Caroline Rudolph.
Thank you.
Thank you. I wanted to address an individual coming from the Pan Am Games to speak about accessibility. I wish that they would open it up to address employment opportunities as well for persons with disabilities with regard to the Pan Am Games. I'm aware that there have been huge initiatives to create opportunities for youth between the ages of 18 to 29 through the SEEDS initiative to create 150 employment opportunities for youth with regard to the Pan Am Games. And I would hope that the staff could come and present from the Pan Am Games and address the issue of hiring persons with disabilities and potentially including persons with disabilities in that SEEDS initiative and allow them the opportunity to have a paid opportunity with the Pan Am Games. As we do at Spinal Cord Injury Ontario, we represent over 200 job seekers, and unfortunately a lot of them would have loved to have participated and received a job opportunity through the Pan Am Games through this SEEDS initiative, but unfortunately they would be ineligible because they are over the age of 29.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions? No. Thank you very much. I thought I'm actually amending a motion right now based on what you've just said.
Thank you very much.
So I'm just going to bring this back into the committee, and Councillor Layton, do you have a motion?
Yes, it should. The clerks have it. So just to explain, I did put strongly in, and then the clerk took it out. How many clerks and lawyers does it take to put together a 15-word motion? Apparently, it's 4. Just as a note, if anyone is ever interested in figuring out a motion like this, the best way to do it is write it in plain language and walk over to the clerks and say, "Could you please help me with this?" That is what all of us do as city councillors. They are wizards with words, and they figure out how to make it all legal. So apparently we're requesting the executive committee again. I thought it was city council, but I'll trust that it's going to do the right thing. As a body, an advisory body of council, or of executive committee, we have to make the request of them. They then will make it of council. And sorry, it says that there. I'm now just realizing. We cannot direct the Toronto Police Services to do anything, particularly since we've already directed or asked for the law to be changed that already really existed anyhow, but we were just upping the fine. So what we can do is ask them to give consideration to give some discretion when issuing tickets. And the reason why I worded it's worded the way it is so that it captures not only any vehicle being used for the purpose of the Wheel-Trans program, but also any other vehicle being used for loading and unloading a person with a disability, which I think captures what Monica and others had said, just to make sure that that even if someone's driving a family member somewhere, that they don't then get, as they're walking into the door, get saddled with a $150 ticket. And as one of the people who wrote the motion to increase the fine, that certainly wasn't the intent. So we can clarify that. And I hope this reflects what folks were thinking. Do I have to read it?
I think it would be helpful.
Okay. That the executive committee recommend to City Council that the Toronto Parking Services consider using discretion when vehicles are picking up and or dropping off a person with a disability.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Are there any questions of the mover, of Councillor Layton? Okay, so if everyone is prepared to vote, I don't believe there's any other speakers on this item. No? Okay, so Melissa, do you want to speak to the item?
I was just concerned about the opportunities for redress, or if that was possible to include in the motion. I wasn't sure.
You want to amend Councillor Layton's motion, is that correct?
Well, I know opportunities for redress was brought up when we were discussing the motion, but it's not included here. So I'm just wondering if there's a reason for that.
And the opportunity to redress is specifically for those who've already
accidentally fined that should not have been fined.
Okay. I am not aware whether or not we can probably ask executive and city council for anything we'd like. I'm not sure if this is something that that they can necessarily address unless it's on a case-by-case situation. I don't believe that they're going to be forgiving all the tickets that have been issued. If it is someone, for example, who's operating an accessibility cab who may have gone in to get a coffee for themselves. So that's why I think they're asking for discretion here. Councillor Layton.
So two things. Just to your point, Melissa, perhaps what we could do is keep the language this way, and Councillor Wong-Tam or myself can address it at executive, and we can bring them alternative language. I get what we're trying to say here. I just have no idea how to word it, and it might take a bit of a creative wordsmithing. The other thing that I just realized is we probably should add the words "when issuing parking tickets," because what are we offering discretion for currently? So if I could add the words after the word discretion, when issuing parking tickets, and then it would pick back up when. I think that makes sense.
Okay, so Councillor Layton has just amended his motion.
Because then it sort of sounds like when anyone's picking up or dropping off, give them discretion to anything that the Toronto Police enforce.
They already have a lot of discretion.
Yeah.
Monica.
About the redress on the tickets. Wouldn't that be done like it is with any other parking ticket? Wouldn't you put, I disagree with this ticket, and send it off, and then everything would go forward from there?
Typically, they're at the provincial level. You dispute a ticket, you go to the Crown Ward, you say, hey, this is the reason, and hopefully the fine is reduced to maybe $20.
Yeah, I just don't see that we have any, that asking the executive committee in any way can help this. Yeah, because I don't see there's any other way to do it except to say I don't agree with this ticket and mail it off.
Yeah, it's at the provincial level.
Yeah. So.
And I think that
I'll take that as a question and say, not owning a car or getting parking tickets, I'm not sure how one fights a ticket or with whom we would take that up, but I can find out.
It's within the provincial court to fight your tickets.
Yeah, I think Councillor Layton's suggestion was that he and I go and continue to wordsmith along until we capture the essence of what people are trying to achieve here at the Executive Committee. That's correct. So Councillor Layton has amended his own motion. Everyone can read this. I'll just read it one more time. That the Executive Committee recommend to City Council that the Toronto Police Services consider using discretion when issuing parking tickets to vehicles picking up and or dropping off a person with a disability. All in favor, please raise your hand if you can. Oppose? And that passes. I'm going to go back to another item, and that was the discussion that we had started around the Pan American Games and requesting that the Executive Committee request staff. Actually, this is Monica. This motion is now drafted in your name, and it's actually been, and it's now been amended in your name. Would you like the opportunity to read that out loud for everyone?
The Executive Committee requests staff from the Pan Am and Parapan Am Games to make a presentation to the April 28, 2015 Disability Issues Committee meeting on the accessibility strategy, including employment opportunities for people living with disabilities.
Okay. Are there any questions of the mover on that item? No? Okay, we're ready to vote. Hands up in favor of? Okay, and thank you. And oppose? That also passes. Thank you very much. Okay, so we're just concluding the meeting. We've got 5 minutes to spare. So we're going to circulate, just to tie up some loose end of conversations. April 28th, right now, is our next meeting date. It's not quite 2 months, but I think it will give us enough time to do some work and come back to you with a fuller calendar of what the balance of the meeting dates will look like in 2015. I am going to ask that you all put your mind to what the Disabilities Issues Committee's new name might be. You have 5 suggestions, if you recall, and if you'd like a copy of those names, the clerk can print that out for you. When we meet again in April, we're going to decide on what that name would be, and we might do a sense of vote off running if we need to. So we will then amend the terms of reference that is going before Council one more time. So we're going to submit it with the revision of meeting 6 times a year, and then we're going to amend it again in April after our meeting. Okay? So, Oh, sorry, you had, I'm sorry, I didn't see you there.
I still
Tracy.
have a request for an item for the next agenda.
Go ahead, Tracy.
So I would like to move that we request to get an update about the accessible taxis, including the design, the proposed design for the new accessible taxis at the next meeting.
Okay. And were you able to get to that? Okay. I'm advised by the clerk that you don't need a motion to that. We will make sure that it's on the next item, sorry, the next agenda for our next meeting. Okay, Terry Lynn?
I just wanted to say that I wouldn't worry about the process of our meeting. Like, we defy normal all the time, and it's quite intended.
Okay.
Yeah.
So thank you very much. I was actually speaking specifically for those who are watching on the television screen. So hear that, folks who are watching on the television screens and closed circuit camera. This committee defies all norms. That was said by Terry Lynn Langdon. The committee that defies all norms. I like it. I want to thank everyone for your attendance and participation. I think this was a very full meeting. We got some things done, and I'll look forward to working with you for the upcoming term, and we'll see you on April 28th physically and virtually over email probably within next week. Thank you, everyone, and thank you to the city staff for supporting us today. Thank you.